an energy portfolio and 20-year recommendation for the future of energy resources to the United States Congress by Arnold Mecum, Heather Lucas, Holly Schell, and Taylor Saley. First, we will hear from Taylor Saley about the current usage of the energy sources coal, oil, and hydropower, with a look to the future about where we would like to be within the next 20 years. Next, we will hear from Holly Schell about geothermal energy, natural gas, and tidal energy resources with recommendations for the next 20 years on those sources. Following after that, we will hear from Arnold Mecum about nuclear power, biomass or bioenergy, and hydrogen fuel cell energy with suggested future usage. Finally, we will hear from Heather Lucas about solar energy and wind power with a brief overview of where our great country is today and where we want to go with our energy utilization over the next 20 years to become a more efficient, sustainable, and healthier America, leading the way and making a positive impact on our planet. Energy Resources, Coal, Oil, and Hydropower by Taylor Saley. Coal is a fossil fuel that is made from altered remains of early vegetation that originally was from peat bogs and swamps. It starts with a living plant storing energy through photosynthesis, and as the plant dies, the energy is released as plant decay. To form coal formations, there is a decaying process that is interrupted so that it can prevent the stored solar energy from being released. That energy locks into the coal. Coal has different colors and types depending on the temperature, pressures, length of time, and what type of vegetation it originated from. Researchers found evidence of how coal dates back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries, 100 to 200 AD. It was also known to help create heat for cavemen back in the days. Coal was common in the 1300s around the southwest United States since it was used for baking, pottery for clay, cooking, and heating. Coal wasn't really known, so it was rediscovered back in the U.S. from explorers around 1673. The history of when coal started making a bigger impact was dated back to the 1700s, when the English realized that coal was able to produce a fuel that burned cleaner and hotter than wood charcoal. It was one of the first dominant energies that made it worldwide. After that, commercial coal mines started to operate in the 1740s, and that started in Virginia. Today, coal has a great role when it comes to building modern and sustainable societies. It helps improve access to energy and allows us to engage with our communities. Coal is known to be affordable, reliable, and makes the least impact to the environment. Coal transforms the way we produce and consume energy in an environmentally responsible manner. The future of coal. Sustainability, including political and economical point of view. Yes, coal is a solid fuel that was created from years of decay of land vegetation. They need to be created from layers to go through the process so that it can become buried. After that, it has its own process of being heated and compacted to deposit so that it's formed. It has been here for years, and it is its high demand for electricity due to its highly concentrated energy source. Although the cost of having coal varies, we still continue to depend on it due to high demands. The fact that it has a long history of growth and long-term solution makes coal really promising. Mining/distributing. China, USA, India, Australia, Indonesia, Russia, South Africa, Germany, and many more are actually mining coals. The United States was the second out of the top 10 because we depend so much on it for our energy system. We actually depend almost 31% of our energy resources. The United States distributes coal by rail and truck across the states to get it where it is needed. The next energy resource will be oil. Oil is created by the remains of marine microorganisms deposited on the bottom of the sea. They are accumulated over millions of years and decay onto the sea floor. Oil was first discovered during 600 BC by the Chinese and transported in pipelines created from bamboo, but it was discovered officially in the United States, Pennsylvania to be more exact, in 1859 by Colonel Drake. It was used much more in the 1900s. After the 1970s through the 1980s, oil has been rising steadily by transportation. Oil was much more adaptable and flexible than the last energy resource, coal. During World War I, they used oil-powered transportation, ships, trucks, tanks, and military airplanes, and realized that oil was a high demand for military asset too. The United States uses oil for high demands and uses like transportation, 69.8%, industrial, 25.1%, residential and commercial, 4.5%, and electric power, 0.6%. The future of oil, sustainability, mining, and distributing. Will the future of oil come to an end within 20 years? Many researchers point to both sides, but there are many reasons why the future of oil is going to happen for good. Oil is known to pollute, releasing chemicals like cadmium, mercury, PHAs, which are polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, lead, chromate, barite, potassium chloride, nickel, and copper, and have many negative effects. But that's why scientists are here to improve what we lacked in the past. There are countries around the world that started to recycle used oil, have an eco-friendly sanitation, and are cutting back a small change but for big change to the environment, and researching ways to improve and simply creating projects to help support Earth from the negative effects. In the long run, they will develop ways to avoid high pollutions and to be able to support the Earth instead. Oil mining comes from different countries like Kuwait, Brazil, Mexico, United Arab, Canada, Iran, China, Russia, United States, and the highest will be Saudi Arabia. Due to high demands in the United States, other countries like Mexico, Canada, and etc. imports oil for us to be for our use. Hydropower. Hydropower was first discovered in the earlier 1870s when Lester Allen Pelton was developing a water turbine. He had it patented in 1880. From then on, they produced electricity in 1881 at the Schkolkopf Power Station No. 1 near Niagara Falls. Hydropower is climate-friendly that generates power without producing air pollution or toxins. By using this route, we avoid about 200 million megatons of carbon pollution every year. The hydropower industry was designed to understand the impacts that the dams can have for ecosystems that have over hundreds of millions of dollars invested into them each year. Hydropower benefits of cleaner air and water. Hydropower has risen up to 0.6% for 2016 from United States Energy Resources. Hydropower continued. In an economic aspect point of view, hydropower will have more advantages than disadvantages. Some of the disadvantages is having a high upfront investment, long-term planning agreements, foreign contracts or funding. Its overcome with advantages are reliable service, proven technology, saving fuel, provides longer lifespan, low maintenance cost, and optimizing power supplies. From a political aspect point of view, it will be highly supported. It enhances recreational facilities, provides food protection, allows water use, improves living conditions, and even sustains livelihoods. If we were to depend on hydropower more in the next couple of years, we will have a great positive impact with improving the Earth as we find better ways to support our water and electricity systems. Hydropower is rising up each year with all the great outcomes.
Geothermal is a great source for sustainable energy. When a geothermal heat pump is installed into a home, there are loops installed in the ground that water travels through. During the winter months, it collects heat from the ground and is carried to the ground source heat pump, where it is then distributed to the home. In the summer months, the heat pump is absorbing heat from your home, transfers it to the underground loops where it is absorbed by the cool earth. The heat pump uses the cool water returning from the ground to create cool, dehumidified air conditioning to your home, all using minimal energy. If you were to install a geothermal heat pump in 2016, you would have been eligible for a 30% tax credit on all costs for having this type of beneficial equipment installed in your home. As of 2017, that tax credit is now not available. We need to be giving homeowners an incentive to be moving forward with using sustainable energy rather than keeping their old oil furnaces. My suggestion for 2018 would be to reinstate the 30% federal tax credit, and every 5 years after that until we have reached 20 years, increase that tax credit by 2%. Taking away such a huge incentive for homeowners is not only detrimental to our environment, but irresponsible of our government. Natural gas is a fossil fuel that is a primary source of CO2 emissions, which is damaging to our air quality. It can cause impaired lung function, shortness of breath, wheezing, asthma attacks, and even premature deaths. While natural gas is a better choice than many other fossil fuels, we would like to see natural gas decreasing by 15% within the next 20 years and moving towards geothermal or solar for energy resources. Tidal energy is used to convert energy of the tides in our oceans into electricity. The tide is created by the gravitational pull of the sun and moon causing tides, which has been highly studied and we're extremely knowledgeable of. Though it can only be used on the coastline, it is relatively easy to install, renewable, and has zero greenhouse emissions. One of the reasons that it isn't being used as much as it should be at this point is due to its requirements for location. We are proposing that by 2037 that the federal government will allocate another 200 miles of coastline in the United States to the use of creating tidal energy, and also propose that $25 million also be allocated within the next 5 years for the installment of equipment. After 20 years, we should see an 8% increase of tidal energy usage.
Nuclear power emits no air pollution. Many countries successfully use nuclear power to create large percentage of their energy. France, for instance, creates 75% of its electricity from nuclear power. And the United States currently produces more nuclear power than any other country at approximately 102 gigawatts of nuclear power per year, which equates to about 19% total of the electricity produced in the United States every year. Unfortunately, the supply of uranium needed to create nuclear power is finite, and it takes 700 million years to create. The biggest downside to nuclear power, of course, is the radioactive waste and the potential for disasters like Chernobyl and Fukushima. Because of these public safety concerns and the high cost to create nuclear power, we don't see the expansion of nuclear power over the next 20 years as a viable option beyond the 19% that we currently produce in the United States, and would rather further develop renewable energy sources. Biomass, also known as bioenergy, is a renewable energy source. Bioenergy does not release net carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and when used in the place of fossil fuels, bioenergy reduces carbon flux into the atmosphere. However, bioenergy is only renewable if it is not overharvested. If it is overharvested, it can lead to deforestation, soil erosion, and desertification. Ethanol is one of today's most common uses of bioenergy, but it is not very sustainable compared to other energy sources. Ethanol is also in competition with the food industry, which drives up food prices. Corn ethanol yields only modest amounts of energy compared to the energy that is inputted to create it. Taking all this into consideration, Biomass energy is viable when it's combined with other sources but cannot effectively produce enough energy on its own to replace fossil fuels, so it is recommended that biomass production stay at current levels. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe and will never run out. Hydrogen is clean and non-toxic depending on the source of electricity used to create it. The only byproducts of hydrogen power are water and heat. And when hydrogen fuel cells are designed to capture both heat and electricity, 90% of the energy in the hydrogen reaction can be used. The United States currently lacks the infrastructure to make hydrogen power cost effective, but many other countries, like Germany, are seeing great success with hydrogen technology production and are expanding their hydrogen facilities. California is in the testing stages for hydrogen fuel cell cars and has set up hydrogen fueling stations throughout the state. Hydrogen is proving successful in California, and we believe expanding in a similar way throughout the United States over the next 20 years will be successful and greatly lessen our dependence on fossil fuels.
Solar power. Solar power is the wave of the future. The most direct way to produce energy from sunlight is through photovoltaic PV cells that converts the sunlight into energy. An example of this is where the light reaches the PV cell and strikes one of the pair of plates, causing the plate to release the energy to the opposing plate, creating a current of DC or direct current electricity, which can be converted to AC or alternating current electricity to be used for all sorts of purposes. Experimentation with different variations of solar power has come upon some exciting discoveries, including thin film solar cells that are lightweight and can easily be incorporated into many types of surfaces. Additionally, solar energy is virtually inexhaustible, with the sun estimated to continue burning for another 4 to 5 billion years, with the amount of solar energy reaching the Earth enough to power all of civilization if we adequately harness it for use. An average solar energy system will produce energy up to 30 years, making it very sustainable too. With all these benefits in mind, it is our goal to greatly increase the solar energy resources to 8% or more to balance out the proposed decreases to the non-renewable energy resources that we currently use. Wind power. Wind power is harnessed through the use of wind turbines that converts the rotational speed of the blades into much higher speeds, providing an adequate motion for the generator to create energy. Like solar power, wind power produces no emissions once the equipment is made and installed. The amount of carbon pollution that the wind power in the United States prevents today is equal to 10 million cars alone. That is a lot of pollution being prevented, making wind power a healthier alternative to the other sources of energy. Additionally, the EROI, Energy Return on Investment, has one of the highest ratios, creating 20 times more energy than it consumes to make it. Wind farms use less water and fuel to operate, and after the startup costs only requires the cost of maintenance. This wind technology can be used in small scale or in a large scale, depending on the local area needs. Farmers can even lease their land for wind turbines and still be able to use most of the land for their agricultural needs. Finally, wind power creates more green-collar job opportunities for Americans. With these benefits to using wind power, it will be no surprise that we would like to increase the wind power resources by at least 4%. As we hope to fade out the use of non-renewable energy resources, we will be needing to utilize the new renewable energy resources such as wind power and solar power. Where we are today. Today, the majority of the energy that we use is oil, natural gas, and coal, all of which are non-renewable resources. And despite these energy resources being non-renewable, our dependence on them has been growing faster than any other sources of energy. Easily extracted oil and natural gases are getting harder and harder to come by and are in decline, causing us to expend more time, energy, and money to extract them. This is decreasing the amount of EROI, or energy returned on investment, and is decreasing the net energy that is generated. The EROI ratios for the United States producing oil and natural gas has declined from about 30 to 1 in the 1950s to roughly 20 to 1 in the 1970s and to about 11 to 1 today. This means we are getting less and less while having to expend more and more to get it. We need to act now to save the future energy resources. We need to transition away from energy sources that are on the decline and take advantage of the renewable resources that we can secure energy that is not only sustainable, but also can help greatly by lessening pollution, the emissions of greenhouse gases that cause climate change, all while improving the health of not only humans, but also the great planet in which we call home. Recommendation for the next 20 years. Over the next 20 years, the most substantial impact we want to see will be made on our consumption of non-renewable energy resources. By slightly upping the other sources of energy and by adding some more of the new renewable energy sources, we can decrease our oil consumption by over 10% and natural gas by almost 15%. With advances in technology, we can make bioenergy more efficient, taking the bioenergy that we already produce and increasing the energy output by 1% solely by efficiency. Additionally, by increasing both hydropower and the new renewables like solar, geothermal, wind, tidal, and hydrogen energy resources and making them more efficient and readily available, we can slowly wean the United States off of using energy that is depletable, dangerous, and that causes pollution and damage to the environment. We already have the technology to be doing more with sustainable energy, and over time, the further advances in technology and research will aid us into evolving into an even more energy efficient society. We ask you, Congress, to please consider the information presented to you today about the sources of energy, and please give substantial consideration to our 20-year plan to make energy more renewable and efficient for not only the United States, but also as an example for the rest of the world to enact upon. Please help us save the planet. Thank you.